Yes, additions, sorry.
Hello. We have 5 additions to the agenda. Number 1, Roxburn Business Park repavement overlay, request to increase budget. Number 2, Nika Yuko Japanese Garden, Reed Lethbridge Jazz and Blues Festival, June 7th. Number 3, Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce, Reed President's Reception, June 26th at the Norland Manor Estate. Number 4, Town of Coaldale, Reed Sod Turning Ceremony for new RCMP building, June 10th. Number 5, Town of Coaldale, Reed Malloy Drain Phase 2 ribbon cutting, June 14th.
Are there any other additions? Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Southern Alberta Summer Games, I just want to ask questions about that. If we sponsor that or not, because it's they are going with the logo on the back of Lethbridge County. Just one.
Any other community services? Item 6. Is it the Southern Alberta Summer Games or the Alberta Summer Games?
Southern Alberta Summer Games.
And where's it at here?
Did you agree?
Okay. Any other additions? Madam, we have a motion to this agenda as amended.
Move to.
Robert. Any discussion? Call for the question. Those that are in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes, pages 1 to 6. Are there any errors or omissions? I just have one question. That's on page 2 under motion 203-19. Paul Horvath's motion for the Ag Service Board tour. I thought it was 19 or 2020.
Yeah, we had that question back and forth with when we were reviewing the minutes, so I wasn't sure about it. So it was 2020, is that the right?
You go ahead.
Yeah, I think the discussion was that would be a tight time frame, so we
Yeah.
we suggested 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay. Any other errors? Omissions? Anything? Motion? Steve?
I'll move the minutes of May 16th council meeting.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Let's go to bylaws, G1, page 21 to 26, bylaw 19-015. Cam Richmond, road closure and consolidation. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, councilors. Bylaw 19-015 is the first reading of road closure and consolidation for Mr. Cam Bridgman between Southeast 31-920 and Southwest 32-920. And I will quickly draw your attention to the monitors here, and I'll give you an overview of where we are on the map. So we are just south of 8 Mile Lake region on Range Road 20-5. And it's this triangular parcel here. I'll key in for your benefit. So the executive summary, moving on, in order to facilitate a proposed land swap with Mr. Bridgman, the county requires to close and consolidate the below mentioned county road right-of-way. And I will point that out to you before I read the description. It is the area in yellow crosshatched here, and that equates to 1.432 acres. And the administration recommended motion for this bylaw is that county council approves the first reading of bylaw 19-015 and hereby closes the following described road, subject to rights of access granted by other legislation pertaining to all that portion of government road allowance forming part of Lot 1, Block 1, plan yet to be determined, containing 1.61 acres, more or less, accepting thereof all mines and minerals. And previous council direction and policy has been to follow number 109A, road allowance closure and sale. Moving on to the background. In an effort to clean up some property boundary issues as well as a county road alignment issue not fully within the road allowance, administration has proposed to the landowner, Mr. Bridgman, a land swap that would be beneficial to both parties. The combined portions of land required to bring the road alignment into the right-of-way, and I'll stop right there and point out these two portions I'm referring to, are in the blue crosshatch on this sketch. There's a portion of county road that crosses Mr. Bridgman's parcel here, and also at the south end of the parcel. These two blue areas constitute.
Scott, just flip back to the GIS, and probably more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here's a very good look at the portion outside the right-of-way. The white line is the parcel mapping. The dashed black line is the center line of the road. So we do have a small portion at the north end of the parcel. And at the bottom, a slightly larger portion crosses Mr. Bridgman's property. So the land that Mr. Bridgman needs to cover his encroachments, which are here, you can see he's built a portion of his home on the county right-of-way, and a concrete pad and some trees and a corral here. He will need 1.43 acres, the yellow portions on this, in order to, this yellow portion will be the portion that is closed eventually by the county. This is county right away here, where his encroachment occurs. There is a difference of approximately 0.47 acres that is proposed to be transferred to the landowner in exchange for a 10-meter access easement, and you can see that on this sketch. The 10-meter easement is required to provide legal access to this portion here. Mr. Bridgman has agreed to the 10-meter access easement. Moving on, it will be beneficial for Lethbridge County to close portions of this road allowance between Southeast 31 and Southwest 32 and trade that portion to Mr. Bridgman for road allowance along the eastern boundary of his property. Municipal Services foresees no future use of this undeveloped right-of-way. Mr. Cam Bridgman has agreed to consolidate the right-of-way into his parcel in exchange for the portions of his current parcel that are needed for road realignment. I know that's a lot to digest at once. Alternatives and analysis would be to close and license in lieu of a closure, although the county would be left with road alignment issues and Mr. Bridgman would be left with encroachment issues onto the county right-of-way. The financial implications of this bylaw are that Mr. Bridgman and the county will evenly split the survey costs of approximately $4,600. The cost to purchase and consolidate this road, as provided by Lethbridge County Assessor, is not applicable in this closure, as we are offering fair value land for land trade to Mr. Bridgman. Registration with Alberta Land Titles will fall on Lethbridge County at an estimated cost of $500 to $1,000. The reasons for this recommendation are that Lethbridge County requires this portion of road to be closed to have the land needed to swap with Mr. Bridgman. Furthermore, this road closure, sale, and consolidation will allow Lethbridge County to realign our parcel mapping of our road instead of physically realigning the road into the existing title mapping. The county will save thousands of dollars by choosing to move the parcel mapping instead of moving the road itself. Are there any questions?
So Scott, the very part part on the very bottom end, is that Bridgman's too, or in the yellow there, or in the red, in between the red line?
Here? Or
I
here?
can't see your hand and.
Oh,
yeah.
Would it help if I
I could get up there too, I guess.
between these two lines?
Yeah,
That is the current parcel mapping. And so what we had, our engineers do is measure 10 meters off the center line of the road and create, so the dashed red line would be the proposed new boundary of the title map.
so what would happen to the solid left or right line?
Solid right?
Yeah.
This would stay the same. This solid red line would move. So we would have quite a wide right of way there, okay, but our road would fall in it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe not for you, Scott, maybe more directed towards the director. So how do we get to that point, I guess, where we're not within the road isn't within the boundary and Mr. Bridgman has developed into that right of way? I guess what led to that point? Was it just a miscommunication when building and that took place on the landowner's part? And then with the road, I guess with the road building, how was the road just not in that right of way in the first place, I guess?
So a lot of that is historical, and there's several areas in the county, we've been bringing these forward as they come up or as the need arises. There was a survey error at some point in time, or there was misconceptions by a landowner or the road builder at the time of where they were offsetting the road. There was handshake deals made when the road was built because maybe there was some fertile land on the side of the road. The guy was farming, he didn't want the road to go there, so he says, okay, we'll just put it across my property. All these type of things happened over the last century as the roads were being built, and as technology improved, now we've got GIS that's updated every 2 years, so we're able to zoom in on these things very easily and find them. So in this case, when we met with Mr. Bridgman, he was unaware that there was a road allowance behind his property. So when he purchased it, he said he wasn't told where he should have done, when you're buying a property, there's some certain steps you should follow and make sure you know where your property lines are when you're buying it. But in hindsight, nobody told him, he was unaware, and he bought the property 30 years ago. Whatever happened at the time he got his development permit for his house, again, we're not exactly sure. He was told what the setback was, provided drawings, but the drawings probably didn't show a right of way there. So without any overlapping on the checks, it just happened. It happens to be a good situation where we do have land to swap because we have that road allowance that we don't really need either. So that's why we recommend it.
Yep. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the easement section, is that important? Is that southeast corner, is it landlocked there?
It is, and Mr. Bridgman is fine with giving us that. And I think what we'll do is we'll have a land agent arrange that, have him sign off and put it on file. So in the future, if there's ever construction access needed, anything like that, we have it on file in concrete paper, so.
How would they access that field now then without?
I believe that there's a road along the canal here, and this is just a mile east from Councillor Horvath's.
Yeah.
So he'll be familiar with
Yeah,
this.
I am familiar with that.
So we'll back it out here a ways now, and I believe, Councillor Campbell, what they do is they access, there is a road here that splits this property of Northwest 30, and they come along this way.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's quite a long ways to get your equipment in there, but that's how they've been accessing, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a question, the easement, will it be registered on title? So that if there's any change in ownership?
So in the future, if anyone does a search on Alberta land titles, it'll appear on that property.
Thank
So,
you.
if the property is ever sold in the future, that will be part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we could use a motion to proceed with first reading. Let me find it. Yeah, I got clause. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Next up is G2, pages 27 to 30. Bylaw 19, thanks Scott. 19018, Valley Community Association, Air Management System Replacement Loan. Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we discussed at a previous council meeting, to prepare a bylaw for the McNally Community Association for up to $60,000 to help finance the replacement of their air management system. We have brought forth bylaw number 19-018 authorizing that loan for first reading up to $60,000 at an interest rate of prime plus 1% for a term of 5 years. Following this meeting, if we did first reading, we'll place advertising in next week's Sunny South for 2-week period, and then following a 15-day petition period, I believe we're hoping to bring this back, but assuming no petitions are received, to a special meeting in July to council for second and third reading, which then will trigger a 30-day waiting period for a bylaw, and they should hopefully be able to receive some funding from us in August. Are there any questions on the bylaw?
I just wanted to add something to the follow-up of the meeting. I did receive an email from Fortis, and they were going to give an additional $5,000, knowing that the county was going to support this initiative, so that will alleviate some of the total for the boiler.
Right, and I believe they do have an application into the community grant program, so whatever funding perhaps they receive from there, hopefully will reduce the total as well. So we did make it up to $60,000, the bylaw, so it can be an amount underneath that, which lower would be better for us.
Any other discussion? Mark?
If I may, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my concern is, I guess they need to do this before fall, I guess, the refurbishing of the heating system down there. And are they gonna be able to start on it, knowing that we may be working on some funding towards that, or like the loan?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I guess I can add a little bit. We don't have any parameters that they can't start on it. I guess the risk there is on them, that there is a chance that this could be challenged or not given third reading. So there is that risk to them, but there's nothing in our bylaws or anything saying they can't start, and they could work out terms or something like that on their end.
We will be requesting too, if council can come and have a special meeting in July, and we were looking at what date, Larry? Fourth? Fourth, and we, in order to have a productive council meeting, we were going to bring this matter forward for third reading, is that right? Second and third reading, and if we could do that then we could finish that on July 3rd or 4th. On July 4th, but what we were also going to do and include in that same meeting, so you're not just coming in for the reading of the bylaw, was we were going to do the land trust applications at the same time, so hopefully we can approve that special meeting.
Any other discussion? We could use a mover then, please.
Move down.
Any further discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thanks, Tracy. I know that we're going to move move on a little bit out of order, but could we do the one from Turin, Larry?
Certainly.
We get going if you like.
Absolutely.
So that was I-3, pages 48 to 50.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Council. Turin Community Park grand opening event. The Turin Community Center and Group would like to host the Community Park grand opening event on Saturday, June 22nd, and has asked for support and approval from the county. The administration recommended motion is that the Turin Community Park grand opening event scheduled for Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, rather than 2109. It's still 100 or so years out, I think, pardon me for that typographic error, be declared a Lethbridge County event. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we just work through this short report. Previous council direction policy with respect to this type of matter is council considers requests of support for community-hosted public events based on the merits of each request, and supporting grassroots events such as this aligns with the county's strategic pillars of helping to support excellent quality of life and to build strong relationships within the region. In 2017, Lethbridge County contributed $15,000 towards the cost of a new backstop for the ball diamond at Turin. And with this event, they would like to hold a beer garden as well as part of the event, pancake breakfast, some live music, ball tournament, ribbon cutting ceremony, and so on. An overall summertime type community event open to everyone. They're also hoping that a county representative, one of our council members, the elected officials, might be able to be present for the grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony for the unveiling of a plaque at noon. Further details of the event will be available after the writing of this report. Here we are today. And I'll just note, Mr. Chairman, that as you've acknowledged as well, we have Jaylene, I didn't catch her last name, but a representative and kind of one of the key organizers here today. I asked her to come, and she said she would be available in the event that council had maybe some more specific questions that I was unable to answer or wouldn't be aware of. So she is available as well if you have any questions further. Alternatives and analysis, the county could insist that the organizing group acquire their own event liability policy from a private broker, and they would have to name the county as an additional insured party if they did that. That would be a cost to them, financial cost. With respect to financial implications, there may be some indirect cost to the county for providing logistical support for the event, such as providing snow fencing if required, and in consultation and discussion with our municipal services department, they are kind of ready, willing, and able to do that. Reasons for the recommendation is this event is planned, as we know, to be on county property in the hamlet of Turin. And in consultation with RMA Insurance, they suggest that council declare this event a county event because of the county's extensive insurance program, which is actually designed to accommodate these types of events without additional premiums to the county or the group organizing and holding such events. In fact, if I may, just to re-emphasize that point, Mr. Chairman, very briefly, I copied the email that I received back from RMA Insurance when I first put this question forward, and the response was definitely very clear. It said the easiest path would be for the county to accept the event as a county event, and that's reflected in the proposed resolution. The county has a very extensive insurance program designed to accommodate these types of events, without additional premium, and this will save the community center time and money. To have it declared a county event, council would need simply to record acceptance of the event in their meeting minutes. And with respect to the liquor license as well, the liquor license for the beer garden must have the county's name on it and would need to be signed, John Smith on behalf of Lethbridge County. And if it's done that way, and I'm kind of managing that and working with the organizing group to ensure that that occurs, the county would be safe liability-wise and protected. So I think that's all I have, unless there are some questions from council.
Are there any questions? Would you like to care to add anything?
No, he's pretty much got it all together. We have the pancake breakfast at 8 AM to 11, then we have a concession, and then beer gardens and a dinner as well. So,
Sounds like a good event and, well organized, so thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to declare it a county event, would we have to do this every time an event comes up for on county land, I guess is what you're kind of alluding to?
Yeah. Through the chair to Councillor Campbell, yes, indeed, every time. This is just a, one-time unique specific event to be held at a specific location on a specific day. The proposed resolution would cover us for that particular event. That's all. Next time we get a similar, public event and celebration request, we look at it based on its merits at the time. And, if it were similar, probably bring forth virtually an identical resolution. But again, we have absolute assurance in the complex world of insurance from our RMA municipal insurer that as long as we follow these steps that they've recommended, Lethbridge County doesn't, absorb the liability for hosting such an event.
So I guess just a follow-up question, big towns or cities, like say Lethbridge with Henderson Park that has weekend events to different organizations, would they go through a similar process or? It just seems like a lot of work for just opening it up for the community. I mean, it's a great idea, but it's just, the extra work doesn't seem strange, I guess.
Yeah, again, through the chair to Councillor Campbell, something like Lethbridge City of Lethbridge, I imagine they have so many of these types of events, on almost a weekly basis, downtown street closures and summer markets. We're all aware of many of the things that go on. For Lethbridge County, they're fewer and, far between, more rare. So, short of maybe, and maybe it's something we could look at in the future, establishing a policy of how we manage and sort of administer requests for events such as these, we could do that. But, for the short term and for now, I think we've got one or two of these maybe a year, and it's not a, a huge effort kind of on the part of administration, but just to work with the group. And, someone asked for, permission to hold a nice event like this in Lethbridge County. Of course, we want to try to be able to say yes, so we work closely with them, again, ensuring that we've done our due diligence to protect the county from liability, but at the same time, doing everything we can to assist and allow the event to move forward.
Thank you.
Andrew?
So basically, every time they have that event, it's a one-day insurance policy, and then if it happens again, it goes through the same thing.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Yes, if they were to do this again, for example, next year, we bring back probably a very similar report, similar recommendation, that sort of thing. This is intended for this event on this day, again, at this location, strictly and exclusively.
Claus and then Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to see that, just put a policy in place that staff can deal with that it doesn't have to come to council every time when there's an event going on. And if they abide by the rules and regulations, well, then everything is go ahead.
Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if we could check with Army Insurance on that, we can have something like that in place on a yearly basis. Like, instead of applying for it all the time, like, I guess you would call it some sort of a blanket coverage. And I think that might be a possibility that you can have that.
Easy enough to certainly follow off the bat.
So if I think back to the exhibition, you had to get a permit, like for a parade or anything that was involved on any city property, and that's how they dealt with it, to a permitting basis, so they would just, and you had to, you believe you had to supply your own insurance, but, I mean, we're talking two different things here, so.
Yeah, and I can seek some further clarification, Mr. Chairman, from Rural Municipal Association of Alberta Insurance, and see if there is some way we could kind of, maybe expedite this or streamline it a little bit. I'm not sure there will be, but maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. In this case, because the direction was, and the recommendation from RMA was so specific that we have council actually make a motion specific to this event, whether or not we can do that on a broader scale through a policy. remains to be seen, but certainly something I can easily enough follow up with.
Okay, good. Any other questions, Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, to be honest with you, it is not a bad idea to bring it up every year, or every time to council, because it's, being acknowledged that way, and I think I would like to keep it that way. However, I still think we should be checking with the RMA for if we can get a blanket, coverage for these type of events.
Anything else? Klaus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we, that the Turner Community Park grand opening event scheduled for Saturday, June 22nd be declared an Olympic Council.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thanks for coming in this morning. Good luck with it.
Thank you, council, and again, there's an invitation there at least for any council member or a council member to attend and represent the county at noon on that day, if someone might be available. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move back to H1, and that's the Roxburgh Business Park pavement overlay request to increase the budget. We pay, and, sorry, I believe it's page 31, after 31.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Roxburgh Business Park overlay tender recently closed. We have a budget currently of $400,000 for that project. The lowest bidder came at $399, $960, and 59 cents, so just under that budget. However, we have engineering expenses to pay for as well. Those engineering expenses are around the $54,000 range. So for a total project upside value of $454,000 is what we're looking for today. The recommended motion is that County Council approve the requested additional budget of $54,000 for a total project budget of $454,000 for the Roxburgh Business Park overlay to be funded through the MSI grant. And just to give you a bit of background on that, when the engineer put their estimate together, they estimated a construction estimate, the amount of days they're going to be on site, and their fees. They estimated 4 days on site for the contractor. The contractor bid 12 days. So that requires more engineering site time, an additional 8 days at about $3,000 per day. So that's where the majority of this overrun is coming from, is that additional site supervision required while the contractor is on site. We don't necessarily believe it will take 12 days, we think it'll get done in 10 days, which will reduce that engineering fee by about $6,000. But we want to request for the worst case scenario of the full 12 days of construction. So that's where that additional $54,000 is coming from. So that equates to about a 13.5% overall budget increase on this project. Some of the policy and council direction for this, phase 1 was completed in 2017 with great results, and we want to continue with that project. Policy 170, purchasing policy, and then referencing the approved capital budget. Within the purchasing policy, on the second page, for projects over 200,000, Ann and Rick have the discretion to approve 10% overages up to 75,000. However, this is 13.5%, which is why we're here today requesting the additional funds from you. A couple alternatives, although I wouldn't recommend them, is eliminating a portion of the project, keeping it within budget. I suppose we could eliminate a small section of asphalt within the business park. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend that. And canceling the project is another option that, again, I wouldn't recommend. As I mentioned before, we're anticipating less than 12 days. The engineer is only going to bill for actual time on site. So like I said before, I don't expect them to be on site for 12 days, but that's what they put in the contract. That's what their site occupancy days were bid at. So that's what we would like to plan for.
Again?
Yeah, Devin, so completing this will make it, there's no restriction on weights?
Correct, there's not going to be a permanent ban. Still the seasonal ban will apply, but the permanent ban will be lifted on that
Okay,
segment.
and that'll take them all the way around the whole.
Exactly, that'll complete the business park. The entire business park will then be that permanent ban lifted and only a seasonal.
So, I got you a question. on the little map there, Broxburn Link and the northerly portion of Broxburn Way, are they not going to be overlaid?
Those were completed as part of the 2017 project.
Also Broxburn Link, okay.
Yeah, just the portion in yellow is what we're wanting to complete this year.
Diane?
Just a question, you mentioned that they're on site and you think that their on-site visits, Devin, are gonna be a little bit more extensive than needs to be, so how are you gonna monitor that, just to make sure that they're, you know, I'm just
The
asking.
contractor?
Exactly, yeah.
The engineer will monitor them on site. They're obviously out there every day, looking at production. If they feel like they're dragging their heels, they'll start getting on the contractor's case to pick up the pace a bit, but like I say, we wanna plan for that 12 days into the contract. We expect 10, but I'm gonna plan for the 12.
Thank you.
So, Mars?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm still at odds with the engineers on this thing. I know that type of road, I go there quite often to Broxburn because of the businesses down there. And I still feel, you know, a simple overlay would do it, but I guess engineers, they always prove you wrong, even if they're 90% of the time wrong. But I guess our management is not convinced either that just an overlay would do it, because that would be quite a bit cheaper, right?
Yeah, so, through, Councilor Zeenstra, it does seem like a lot of money for the engineering fees, and a lot of that becomes, or a lot of that is due to the quality assurance testing. They usually spend about 12 hours on site. They're running, laboratory, they're running sieves and Marshall pots and stuff like that. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and as well the project management on site. He's got to be out there for a majority of the day to keep an eye on the crew and keep them on track, as I was mentioning to Ann earlier. So that's where the majority of those costs come from. And when it comes to engineering, the bulk of your costs are typically in construction. That's where, you know, the detailed design and stuff in the early stages are usually not as expensive as the on-site time.
But I was asking about a simple just overlay.
That's what this project is an overlay, yeah. Yeah.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For just an overlay for, like, this isn't even half a mile, is it? Why couldn't it be done in 1 or 2 days at the most? Why is it 12 days?
I'm not sure why Telstra did 12 days. They may have other projects in the queue and they can't put as much manpower to it. It depends on their asphalt production rates as well, if they can produce enough asphalt to get it done in a more timely fashion. Bigger companies like AECon that did South Park Lake Road, their production rate is way above Telstra. They're a bigger company, they have more manpower. Telstra, I just don't believe, has the manpower and possibly even the equipment available to get it done in that short of time frame.
Just, we did an analysis on the tender as well, because the next bid was fairly close. Where in the tender, there is a unit price for site occupancy days, and they have to add in a certain value for every day they're gonna be on site, which increases their bid amount by $1,500 per day for every day that they're on site. So if they put in, it's not usually to their advantage to put in more days than they're expecting to be there. But in this case, that didn't take them over the next bid. So if it was an RFP, which we typically don't do for paving jobs, it's difficult to analyze, and there's other factors involved, but a tender is the most common for road paving jobs. The tender amount, when you don't add in the engineering. So if somebody bid the job with 8 days, they add their $1,500 a day for site occupancy, but they don't factor in the total project cost is not what is analyzed in the tender. So when the tender rules are you have to go with the low bid, but it's not necessarily the lowest project cost. And that's just the rules of tendering. And if we did go with the next highest bid, we could be challenged. Higher construction costs, but less engineering costs.
Ken?
Yeah, but aren't the, transport proposals, designating what the requirement is? So they are all bidding orange to orange, not orange to apple?
Right, so a request for proposal is them, it is the contractor or the consultant or whoever is providing a proposal to do a particular job. And they may substitute alternatives, or you have the ability to negotiate after the proposal period closes. With a tender, it's a set amount, and that number is not negotiable. You can have contract changes and stuff after the fact, but it's usually based on unit price, or change orders to do with the contract when it's a tender. With an RFP, we could say, we like your proposal, 95% of it, but we wanna negotiate. So if this was an RFP, for example, you could say, we wanna negotiate, we're gonna take off 4 site off days, so that it's not, like you're forced to do this in 8 days. But that's not the way the tender was written, and typically not. Typically, you have to realize that different people or different companies with different assets and different ability to do the job are gonna bid. And that's why that flexibility is in when they call it the site occupancy date. So if that makes sense. Might be, it's confusing but I understand that.
Well, to me, it just seems like 12 days to go that far is an awful lot of time. Like, so, yeah.
Just a couple things to note. There are some isolated spots where they have to do some work ahead of time. There's some pre-leveling work because of minor rutting, access tie-ins, stuff like that. So it's not just get the paver out there and go. There are some little items they do need to take care of that take time. So that's why the days are a little bit higher.
Yeah, oh, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the MSI funding, from the 2019 budget, we had a lot of MSI funds unallocated. Is that correct?
We had, in the 19 to 23 plan, we had a breakdown of, we were very close to having all of the MSI allocated over that period of time for what is projected to come. So, and that was with we had some carry forward from last year of MSI funds that were, and we ramped up the number of projects in this year and next year. We added in the Kip Road, there was some other ones that we offset with the business tax, funding our future funds. So there, with those combined, we had almost, if not gone over on our projections on MSI.
Okay.
Any other questions? How much, oh, Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little confused again. I thought when we were gonna do these roads, and I put a lot of emphasis on that, when we have a business park, and, you know, we like people to come in, and Martin knows all about it from there, and then they run into the possibility that it's gonna be a bad road that, in our eyes, that was absolutely not doable. So we insisted on going ahead with this, and I basically would like to make that motion on that we go ahead with the request of the increase in the budget, because it is absolutely necessary. We cannot wait any longer.
I think I got you right, you're making a motion to go ahead with the project and with the $54,000 extra to put in. I thought you were referring something around, it shouldn't be banned road, but
Wow.
maybe I misunderstood.
I just wanted to make that
Oh,
statement.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any other discussion? How much of a lift are you putting on?
120 millimeters.
What's that in English terms?
5 inches.
You go like this.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Let's see. Yeah, we're down to I-1, pages 31 to 32, 2019 parade schedule.
You're gonna be busy again, man.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm here to present the 2019 parade schedule. So just a little bit of background. So many of the municipalities and hamlets within the county hold annual parades throughout the summer. And the county has typically been represented and the county float included in these parades. Previous council direction, members of county council participate annually in these parades. County council did authorize councilors to attend all the parades in 2018. The 2019 parade schedule is as follows. July 6th, the town of Coalville and the village of Barons will have a parade. Town of Noblesford is July 20th, town of Colehurst is August 10th, town of Pitcherview is August 17th, and Move Up Days in Lethbridge is August 20th. And then the hamlet of Iron Springs typically has a parade on the first Saturday after the long weekend, but it's not been confirmed with me yet, so. Yeah, so recommendation by administration is that county council authorizes the councilor of the area to attend the parades for 2018.
So for Coaldale, didn't they ask everybody? Because it's their 100th anniversary.
Bill Chapman, when he called before, I believe so, if they were able to attend.
So do you want us just to approve the schedule, or you want us to say who's going, or what do you want done here?
We can kind of figure out later exactly who's going to which one. I can send out a calendar invitation and we can do it that way. That's probably easier than going around. Yeah, just after selecting, so.
More efficient.
Exactly.
Any further, oh, Troy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know earlier this year when we had some discussions around council pay and expenses and things of that nature, how councilors were recording such events, such as parades and things like that. I think parades I think it's a great opportunity for councilors to get out into the community, and I think it's great that we're representing the county. It's my feeling that we shouldn't be paid for that. I know some of the financial implications that per diems to attend. So, and I know we're able to make our own decisions to how we handle that, but it would be my suggestion, I would make the motion as it reads that county council authorizes councilor of the area to attend the following parades with the listed dates, with the addition at the end without per diem.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we get discussed. Any discussion on the motion? Call for the question. Oh,
as we had discussed, I'm not aware of any discussions that we had.
When we had a couple of rounds of discussion. I don't think so. We had a couple of rounds of discussions downstairs about attending parades. It should be part of your package to do so for your area. Maybe you weren't there. I don't know. I thought you were, but. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of certain community functions is sort of how we, parades and other, I don't know, what would be examples of some of the others, but there was some other events too, that just community events that.
I can't remember exactly what the others are. There's not very many of them anyway, but.
But that was my biggest concern. And because all of these parades, everybody from the whole county goes to them. So you can't pretty well say, well, like if it's Golders, everybody from Noble Virgin and all around are there. And so, but that, you're there to represent the county. And it's not hard, you're just riding around or whatever. And I'm full in favor of council. Campbell, or
Marshall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We should certainly talked a lot about this, but I can't figure out where it come from, because I don't think it was ever a practice of any councillor down there when they went to a parade or a certain function in the community that they would, let's say, put a per diem down for that. As far as I know, all the councillors, when they went, those type of events, not just that type of, but other events too, that they wouldn't put down for it, but they would go to it. So why is this being brought up again?
Sorry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's my point exactly, Councillor Zeenstra. I think there's just this makes it clear. This just says, then it's not up to someone's discretion, it's clear. There's no interpretation on behalf of each councillor, how they interpret that. And it's just clear. That was my goal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm gonna call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Penny? Pages 33 to 47. Chinook Intermunicipal Subdivision Development Appeal Board. Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, rest of council. So as you may recall, or may not recall, on May 21st, at the council meeting on May 21st, County Council had heard a presentation from Lens Kuiper and Steve Hardy with regards to the Chinook Industrial Subdivision and Development Appeal Board that was being created by the Oldman River Regional Services Commission. This, and I'll just paraphrase, I'll call it the Intermunicipal SDAB from here on out. But this was started when the Municipal Government Act was amended this last year, and there was some concerns with regards to many municipalities on how they would meet the new requirements for a subdivision and development appeal board. Only one councillor could be on an appeal board. Training was mandated. So there were some requirements that some smaller municipalities were struggling with in terms of meeting the requirements that they have to have an appeal board. So the Oldman River Regional Services Commission decided to create a regional board, not unlike the assessment appeal board that is already in place, that the county is already part of. And the objective would be is that instead of having individual appeal boards, you have more of this regional appeal board that you would be able to draw from the different municipalities' members to have appeals, and we're going to have that issue of not having trained members or not having members, period, be on that board. So with regards to the county, even though we can function quite well with our appeal board as it is, we have no issues with regards to training. All our members are currently trained. And in addition, we have all of our members are at large. As council is aware, we don't have elected officials on our appeal board. So right now our appeal board can function as is. But this regional appeal board does give us the opportunity to look at how our appeal board does work and maybe to find some efficiencies. Our appeal board's been kind of existing in the same way for probably 30-ish years in terms of how it functions. 5 members that are at large, and so on. That's pretty much the basics. With regards to our existing appeal board, our membership is, we have 1 term coming up at the end of this year, 1 ending in 2020, and 3 ending in 2021. Over the years, we have had some instances, even up to a few years ago, where we had some problems being able to get people onto that board, or enticing people to want to belong to that board. So that is one downfall of having a 5-member appeal board, is that, and from at large, is that you have some issues maybe getting people to want to join an appeal board. With regards to the Chinook Industrial SDAB, it would allow up to 3 county council appointed board members or less. Any municipality can have up to 3. I talked to Lenz Kuiper this morning just to ask him how it was working in terms of the appeal board. They have 29 municipalities who have already joined out of 41. And I asked him how many members each municipality had just on average, and he said it varies. Some have none, and some have 3. So, and we're in between. And the ones that would have none might be like a very small village, maybe like Barons. They might not have anybody who they could get on. So they're joining this board to benefit from the greater membership, right? So they might not have an appeal. They might have an appeal once every 2 or 3 or 4 years. So they don't have a lot of need to have a full-fledged appeal board within their community of 420 people or whatever it is. So each participating municipality would have a choice of how many board members they wish to be on a panel. So right now the county has 5, but a lot of municipalities are opting for, say, a 3-board panel instead of 5. So that's reducing some costs in terms of the per diems for an appeal hearing. The appeal panel would consist of the members of the member municipality. So it could be, if we appointed 3 members, then there could be, we have a 3-member panel. All 3 members of the county's appeal board members would be on that panel. Or if we wanted to maintain the 5, then we would have 3 from the county and 2 from different municipalities. So you would have you could have a well-rounded appeal panel that way. So the members from the wider pool would be contacted, say, if our members couldn't attend, just to fill out that panel. So it acts very much, just to backtrack a little bit, if you're familiar with the municipal government board, it's a pool from across the province, right? People are on the municipal government board, and they get called into a specific hearing. There's 3 members on that particular panel from the municipal government board. So I see this as acting like a smaller version of what that provincial body is. Some advantages that, from my discussions with Steve Hardy and Lenz, with regards to joining this particular board, would be the county could reduce the number of board members that it currently has, which would reduce training costs, and also it would reduce the cost of the hearings that we would have. Joining the board would also support the region as a whole, and getting support from other municipalities that the county board members, in the event that the county board members wouldn't be able to attend, you would have that wider pool to draw from. Then we'd have a regulated fee structure. So every member who joins this regional board, it's the same fee structure across the board. So there would be set per diem, so there would be no change in that. So that makes it equal for all the municipalities involved. ORS would still handle the training of the membership and ensure everything is up to date with regards to the members and the appeal hearings. They would also continue to be the designated clerk and secretary for the appeal board hearings, which is what they do right now. The board members would have the potential to have more opportunities to hear appeals in different jurisdictions, so that might be something that people are looking forward to, being more involved in terms of their broader community. And the county appeals would be heard by board members who have potentially a diversity of backgrounds and perspectives, so that could be an advantage for us. We would still be required to fill, so that the number of members that we want to have, we would have to fill the positions for the appeal board, but ORS would take care of everything from there on out. If given the opportunity to proceed with adopting this, adopting the bylaw for the regional appeal board, the county administration would provide options. We would provide you with options of how the composition of the county's board membership would be. Because right now we have 5. Do we want to go down to 3? How would we determine who would sit on that board? So those are things that we would flesh out if county council wishes to go with the recommendation, which is that we do join the Chinook Industrial Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. As I feel that there are, I was skeptical at first, but now with things kind of moving along, being to a number of meetings, Anne's been to a number of meetings and been involved with that, I've kind of seen the benefits outweigh the cons in this particular scenario, and it really, there could be some good opportunities for the county. So, are there any questions of council? I've also attached in here the bylaw and the agreement from ORS.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So, if you were to adopt this, that would eliminate the current appeal board we have.
That's correct.
So, and then would you, from the people who are on the current one, is that the people, or the names of the people you would submit if they were interested to go to the next one? Or this won't be any elected people going forward, right?
No, I think we would probably still maintain the citizens at large for the appeal board. And so that's something that we would have to discuss a little bit further, is how we would want to, if this is something that is approved. So the old bylaw would be replaced by a new one, and we would have to determine who would be on that board. So my just general, very high level thought would be is that we would reach out to our existing board members and see who would actually be interested in being on this. Because somebody might say, you know what, that's not what I want to do. And then we could, but some people might be really interested in this who are currently on the board. So I think that would be the first step, is to identify who on our existing board would want to move forward with this, but we'd be limited to 3, not 5.
So then just
Yeah.
follow-up things. So who would act as the chair of this committee then? Would that alternate from each hearing to hearing, or how do they get the experience then if they kind of, there's no set?
Yeah, and so that is something that was discussed at these meetings. So typically, you would have, at the start of a hearing, you would identify who is the chair. So at every meeting, you would identify who is the chair. So you'd have a rotating chair instead of one that would be set for the year. This is how it happens at the Municipal Government Board. They sit down, a half hour before the hearing or 15 minutes before the hearing, and they say who would want to be the chair. I mean, there's a clear outline of what the chair rules are. It's not like you're winging it. You do have the secretary there to guide really the process. The chair is just making sure, as you're well aware of, Mr. Chairman, that just guiding the meeting, making sure that there's decorum and that the rules are being followed for the hearing. So everybody's with the training should be actually already on board with what the roles of a chairperson are.
So then the role of ORSC wouldn't change substantially from the current to the new
That's right.
system?
Yeah.
And the cost of an appeal, would it be virtually what it is now? Because we kind of didn't charge what it really costs to do, because we thought everybody should have the right to an appeal.
You never get back the cost of an appeal. Appeals are ranged from anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 for the county, depending on the amount of information that has to be given to, sent out for a specific appeal and how long it takes. The cost of the appeal probably won't change. Like we have a fee if somebody wants to put in an appeal, say to a development or to a subdivision, which is $500. And then, so that obviously doesn't cover the costs of an appeal. We absorb the remainder of those costs. But with the regional appeal board, the per diems are a little bit less, and by having less board members, potentially less panel members, so from 5 to 3, you would reduce those costs. Maybe in a nominal way, but in some ways it would be a little bit less.
But you'd actually have to pay the cost of the appeal.
We do now.
Versus a set figure.
No,
No, I mean, the person who's wanting to appeal.
yeah, everybody right now has to pay $500 if you
Yeah,
want to
but
appeal.
like if you go to this new system, I guess my
That doesn't
question,
change.
it still would be $500,
That's correct.
regardless of whether it costs 1,000 or
Yes.
10,000 or whatever the case is.
That's county's decision through the schedule of fees if you want to up what an appeal costs
Okay,
to apply for.
okay, thank you. Hans?
Yes, there were some of those questions I had too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But the total amount of people on the board, how many were they're going to be there?
Well, there's 20, right now there's 29 municipalities who are on this regional board, and they would have opportunity to up to 3 members to be within that broad pool of board members. So every municipality can have 3 members that are in the pool. So 29 times 3.
So isn't that a terrible amount of people?
But not everybody has 3.
Okay, but even if everybody has 1,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you still
29.
have 29 people there.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to get anything done if you have 29 people on the
No,
board?
you only have 3 people on a panel.
Oh,
Panel, there's just 29 to draw from.
Yeah, you have a pool, and each appeal would only be heard by 3 people. So it's just making sure that, so if there's one in the Prosness Pass, you would take people from that area. If there's one by Brooks, you would take people from that area. In Lethbridge County, you would have from our area. And so it's but it's making sure that everybody has representation for an appeal.
so it would be basically taking out the danger of conflict of interest, because if there's something going on in our county, it would not be our members that we have on.
That's right, exactly.
Any other questions? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the regional board is a great idea. You can use the knowledge and points of view of the neighboring municipalities, whether they're counties or MDs or towns or villages. My question would be, on the training, if we named 3 members, it's still up to us to pay for the training for them, or that's from the regional board?
No, that would be covered now by, if approved, the Yield and Recreational Services Commission takes care of ensuring that everybody's trained.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's would be monitored and implemented by them, because they're actually becoming certified trainers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the members don't have to go to Edmonton
That's
for some
right.
of the training?
Yeah, all the
Okay.
training would be done in-house for the board, yeah.
Okay, that saves some cost.
And it saves some cost there too, absolutely.
Okay.
Anything else? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that Lethbridge County join the Chinook Intermunicipal Subdivision and Development Appeal Board, and that County Council direct administration to bring forward a bylaw to the June 20th council meeting.
Oh, that's fast.
But you're ready.
You might have to make it July the 4th like the other ones.
Yes,
We could do that if that's agreeable.
that's agreeable.
Okay,
Change it to July 4th is, okay, thank you.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. I-4, Canada's Premier Food Corridor Overview, pages 51 and 52. Mark? Anytime you're ready, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, and good morning to council. Thank you for this opportunity to come and give you a little bit of an overview about Canada's premier food corridor. Since about this time last year, you've kind of heard me talking a little bit about a food corridor, an agri-food corridor along Highway 3. And in fact, in this year's budget, council very nicely allocated some funds to pursue development of this corridor. And so I thought at this time it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to come before you with added support and give you an update on where we're at, what this is looking like, because you may start to get some questions from your citizens in your districts that may hear about it, read about it in the news, and want to know more. There's also a new website that we have, which I will direct you to a little bit later. So some of this will be familiar to you, or you'll understand it already from previous discussions. Some of it may be a little bit new, and again, it's just more to give you an idea of what's going on and make you more familiar and more comfortable with it. So, as the federal government's plant protein supercluster project moves forward and the economic development officers in this area try and promote our products, our producers and our products, and agri-food more generally, we thought we'd do better if we came together and kind of marketed collectively. Now, it doesn't preclude any municipality or organization from doing its own work, its own marketing, and we continue to do that independently, but it's kind of creating a bit of a hub, something that has a little bit more of a profile, and hopefully will have a bit more of a presence. Think of it as kind of a Silicon Valley, or what we hope one day will be a Silicon Valley, but for agri-food production. That when people in Canada or North America think agri-food, oh yeah, of course, Southern Alberta, Canada's premier food corridor. We all know about that. That's one day where we hope to get here. So I'll just run through here and go through these slides. This is a general presentation that we've been kind of giving. So some of it, because you are here in Lethbridge County, I'll move through fairly quickly because you know it already. But there are a few slides that I think will be of special interest to council. So again, what we try and do here, it's an education process in addition to building the brand, as it were. Give a regional overview, what are the key attributes, what makes this the ideal location for Canada's premier food corridor, what crops are being planted here, the importance and role of irrigation, and then finally a bit of a map, including an asset map, which is the last slide, which I think you'll find very interesting. So right now, who are the partners? It's made up of all the municipalities between Lethbridge, the city of Lethbridge, represented by Economic Development Lethbridge, and the town of Taber. So on the west end, city of Lethbridge, Lethbridge County, the town of Coaldale, the MD of Taber, and the town of Taber. And then South Grow is kind of a regional partner on there. Now, you might look and say, well, what about Vulcan County, or what about some of these other places? They're doing a lot of agriculture as well. And they may one day, or we may expand this over time, but we wanted to start with a group that was manageable. We thought if you open it up to everybody all at once, you don't get anything done, it becomes too big to manage right off the bat. So we thought by kind of keeping it a little bit more focused, at least to begin with, and geographically contained, we'd be able to make some more progress, and as we're ready, we can add in more municipalities that are interested and see fit. So that's who we are kind of right at the moment. So region, humorous slide here, you guys kind of know where we are. I'm going to just move across. And here, of course, a map, again, you guys are familiar with this, showing Highway 3 east-west connection, all the municipalities across it. But again, keep in mind that, the moment you leave Southern Alberta, people start to become a lot less familiar with this. We take it for granted. We know all these places, but outside of our area, not so much. So again, it's part of an educational process. So again, what makes our region a great location for this food corridor? Stuff that we're all familiar with here in the room, a knowledgeable workforce, in part supplied through University of Lethbridge, Lethbridge College, Medicine Hat College, and so forth. Our location, close to the US border, close to a greater Calgary hub, and close obviously to the crops that are being produced. We have the water, thanks to irrigation. We have the sun, thanks to our location. And we already have an existing cluster. There's already a strong agri-food and agricultural presence here. We're not building this from scratch. We didn't come up with a crazy idea like, let's make the Southern Alberta spaceport, because it sounds really neat. And you know, why? Why would it locate here? There's no reason for it. We have strong roots, pardon the pun, but it's true, in this area. We've done a lot of work. We have the knowledgeable, experienced producers and companies here. We're just building it out more. And so we're not doing something radical and new. We're just taking it to the next phase. Some of our key supporters that we've had discussions with, again, this should come as no surprise, University of Lethbridge, Lethbridge College, Farming Smarter, Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, RINSA, the Regional Innovation Network, and Canada's Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. In fact, many of these partners are really excited. They by themselves can't drive this, but they're really excited that the municipalities are kind of taking the initiative and moving forward. And they're very happy to come on board to play their roles. In the case of University of Lethbridge and Lethbridge College, it's obviously going to be more on agriculture and research. Some of the others will have their own roles to play, but we see them obviously as key supporters, key partners, and we're happy to have them on board.
Pardon?
Yes?
Question. Who's the chair of RINSA now?
Mr. Chairman, a very good question. Bill Halley, who's been in here before, has retired. It's a young woman, I want to say Julia, and the last name begins with an S. I'm not going to guess, I'll have to get back to you.
No, that's fine.
But it's no longer Bill Halley.
Okay.
Okay, again, moving right along here in the interest of time. Some of the major players, I won't linger here long, these are all names, companies that you're familiar with. Nice to see Lethbridge County well represented on this list of major players. And of course, many of our farmers, many of our producers are supplying companies like Richardson and others there. So, you know, these are names that, again, you show this in a place other than Southern Alberta, and it will resonate with people. You know, people know Cavendish. Oh, they get McCain's fries, AgriPure yogurt. They'll recognize these names and hopefully respond. So, talking to people with way more experience in the agricultural sector than myself, I won't linger on this too long. We're just, again, educating on some of the crops we produce, the importance of irrigation here in this area, water for food, again, highlighting that link, that connection between irrigation and food production, and water for business and commerce. A little bit, I'll just make that little plug again. As Economic Development Officer, of course, water, wastewater is a very keen issue for me as well, one that I'm very interested in as we move forward with this project. So this again still focuses on water here, future opportunities for water. This is the slide that I was mentioning that I think is so promising. What we've actually done is made an asset map of all the companies, institutions, and support services that there are here for this in the area. So it's not just Lethbridge County, but the whole Highway 3 Agri-Food Corridor. And as you see, it's actually quite impressive when you put it down on paper. Again, I think we know that there's a lot here, but you present this to people and you say, we already have an established foundation in agriculture and agri-food, you know, and then you show them this and it's like, oh, I see, oh, there's all these companies, oh, there are these research facilities, oh, there's these educational institutions. It kind of drives it forward. And in particular, Canada Agriculture and Agri-Food was especially keen on this Western diversification. They were all over this map. And again, you kind of think, well, of course they know what we have going on here. Maybe not to your surprise, they didn't in large measure. They weren't aware, you know, and they're like, we should come here more often. We need to tour more here. And we were all saying, yes, absolutely you need to, because they were very fuzzy on these details. So again, it's not just educating people from the Netherlands or people from overseas. In some cases, we're having to educate our provincial and federal counterparts on what we have going on here. So where does this impact for you? Well, again, I wanted it to, you know, you to kind of see what we've been working on and how this is taking shape. But I also wanted to highlight here, we have a website up now, and part of that money that was allocated here to this project by County Council, this is the kind of thing that it's going to fund. And so we've branded this Canada's Premier Food Corridor. I still sometimes refer to it as the Highway 3 Agri-Food Corridor, but we gave it the branding Canada's Premier Food Corridor. And there's a reason for that. With a lot of people, you say the word agriculture. And I find agriculture fascinating, so I'm working for the right municipality. But some people are like, oh, agriculture, you know, that grandma and grandpa had a farm. They don't feel a connection to it. But food, everybody eats, everybody feels a connection to it. So it's not that we want to in any way diminish the importance of our producers and our farmers. We celebrate them. But when we market this, we want to say, what are our producers making? Well, they're making, you know, wheat, barley, canola, dairy products, and so forth. But what resonates with people, even if they live in a large city like Toronto, is food, because everybody eats. So this is the kind of website. If you get a question, you can direct one of your residents to, one of your ratepayers. We've tried to keep it very simple, very clean, at least to start. It will evolve over time, as all websites do. But it's intended to kind of inform and educate what is this thing? Why is it here? Why should, if you have a company that's in the agri-food sector, agricultural sector, why should you consider coming here? And again, our mission, feeding the world. If we have a vision for this area, it's not just, yes, we want to help our producers and our companies do well, but what's the big picture here? And the big picture is we produce way more quality food than we need locally. We can help feed not just the rest of the people in Alberta, not just the rest of the people in Canada. We are helping to provide safe, ethically grown, sustainable food all around the world. And that's one of the things that we are highlighting here. So, you know, it talks about the region. Again, I won't dwell on this too much. I can provide you all with the link. You can explore a little bit on your own time. And again, we would encourage you, you know, if you get questions about this, or you have an opportunity to talk about it, this is a public website. It's live now. Send people here. Let them look through it. And they may notice some things that they want to improve. They may have suggestions, and we welcome that. This is not just myself and the other economic development officers working on this. This is a collaborative project, and we want lots of input. You know, we can't, of course, do everything for everyone, but, you know, if people say, well, you know, have you thought about adding this kind of a section to the website, or that kind of a section? You know, maybe we didn't. Maybe somebody has a really good idea out there, and we can add that in. So on that note, I know I've talked a lot. I've thrown a lot at you in a short period of time. I do thank you all for your attention, and Mr. Chairman, should members of council yourself have any questions, I'm very happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mark? Rick?
I don't have a question, just a statement that when you overlay that map on the benefiting area of what we're calling the Horsefly Spillway project that was approved for DMAF funding, or is going to phase 2 of DMAF funding. It's a $47 million upgrade to the Horsefly Spillway that is going to provide protection, flood protection, for a big chunk of this area. So if there was apprehension for people, I mean, agricultural areas are typically flood prone, and if there was apprehension by investors because of some flooding history, there is a project in the queue right now that is pending funding, but there is a big chunk of the funding is approved for phase 1 of that project already, in the sum of $35 million that the province and the feds are looking at potentially investing in this area. So it may be something that you could add to your program.
Thank you, Rick, and I may follow up with you to get a little bit more information on how we might integrate that.
Any other questions? Tori?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Martin. I think this is great. I think what you're doing is great, and it just gives us as council another tool in our toolbox, and for administration and for yourself, our economic development officer. It just gives us another tool. You know, a big part of your presentation here might have been borrowed in bits and pieces last week, and, you know,
That's good.
we were able to use part of that, as we met with the Minister of Rural Economic Development. We were able to meet with some of her staff at FCM, and so it's just like I say, it's just a great asset to have a focused discussion and to pull those points together where it's not, you're not reaching as far. So thank you for your work on this, and I think it's great.
Mr. Chairman, to Councillor T. Campbell, thank you for your kind words, and again, I think this is very important. Council has been very supportive, and for that I thank you again, but also that Council understands and that this fits into the framework for the strategic plan for the county that Council sets and approves. So, as Council gives direction, I think and allocates funds, I think it's important that I'm accountable to you for what the work is that I'm doing, but also then that this is usable for you as you go to these conferences and meetings and try and move things forward for the county and the region. So ideally, it's positive in both directions, but thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Could use a motion then to. Claude?
Well, move that we, consider information.
Any further discussion? Call for question, those in favor, those opposed, carried. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
Are you doing the next one too?
I believe so.
Okay, let's do that one, South Grove Annual General Meeting, and that is on page 53 to 55. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of council, as you are aware, Lethbridge County is a member of a regional economic development association, South Grow, and every June they have their annual general meeting. This year, the meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 13th, so a week from today, in the town of Claresholm from 5 to 8 p.m. I believe that Lethbridge County, we have a council representative, Councillor Horvath. I'm not sure if he will be attending. We actually received 2 complimentary tickets, and it is always good to have a council presence, a strong council presence. I will be in Calgary that day attending an EDA, Economic Development of Alberta board meeting, but very nicely on the way back to Lethbridge, I'll be able to stop at this meeting as well and be in attendance as an administrative member and as your economic development officer. And I believe, if I'm not talking out of turn, Anne has indicated she
Yes.
may attend.
I will be
as well.
attending as well too, so I think Councillor Horvath said he would attend as well. Anybody else, we can travel up together.
Yes, so the purpose of my report, my item, is to see if there's any other members of council, in addition to Councillor Horvath, CAO Mitchell and myself, who wish to attend. And again, think of it as a time to network, a time to represent the county. Again, a strong council presence is always appreciated, and but I do realize there's many commitments and your time is valuable.
Is there anyone else wishing to attend? We need a motion then on this subject, unless there's any further discussion. Steve?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'll move the county council authorize Councillor Bob Horvath to attend the South Grove Annual General Meeting scheduled for June 13th.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call for question, in favor, opposed, carried. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and any members of council.
So 11:30, and we have a subdivision application, number 2019-0-055, Ackerson Farms Limited, on the southwest border of 2312-21. Morris, do you want to excuse yourself?
Probably should, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, thank you. Pages 7 to 20.
I will get everything organized in just a second.
So Councilor Kingsgrove has excused himself because it is his son.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. Chairman and Council. This application is to subdivide out a 2.68 acre parcel out, this would be the first parcel out of the quarter section of Southwest 231221 west of the port. This proposed subdivision does meet the subdivision criteria of the county's land use bylaw, and we would recommend approval of this application with conditions. Steve Hardy will go through the planning comments and the conditions of the approval.
Mr. Chair, this application is on a quarter section of land located approximately 8 miles north of Picture Butte, 1 mile north of Highway 43. It is a application to subdivide out the existing yard, which will be the first subdivision out of the quarter section. It's noted on the application, they originally applied for a square 2.85 acre application when it came in. They subsequently amended the application. It's just gonna be a little bit smaller at 2.68 acres inside. And the reason for that is that they decided to cut out the very southeast corner in order to accommodate the pivot system on the remaining agricultural land there. So with that, the application would be at 2.6 acres in size rather than the original application at 2.85. As mentioned, the application is to subdivide a long-established existing farm area. It does contain a habitable dwelling on there along with some agricultural buildings, Quonset, tree shelter dugout and such. As mentioned on the approval for you today, the southeast corner will be angled in order to account for the irrigation pivot. As part of the review, there is, as you can see there to the southwest across the road, a 150 head dairy operation. An MDS of 242 meters is required and 271 meters exists, so it meets the MDS. Overall, the application does meet the county's criteria for a first parcel subdivision. During the referrals, there was no objections or any concerns received. None of the utility companies look like they need easement on it. So I have recommended an approval to you on the basis that it conforms to all county's policies for subdivision, and there's no objections or concerns. The conditions would be that the standard property taxes are paid and up to date, and development agreement entered into if required. That the final subdivision plan submitted by the surveyor reflects the adjusted parcel with that corner cut for the pivot and be at 2.68 acres in size. On the draft I had sent out a week ago for your agenda, it mentioned about the utility company easements, but none are required, but those would be the conditions.
Any questions? So Steve, is that an acreage out of the next quarter up? With a little white square around it?
Yeah, to the north.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So, would the dairy been able to expand any further? So it's not restricting it anymore?
No.
Okay.
Probably not, and dairies don't have a very significant, their MDS is less significant than, say, a beef lot, so they might be able to expand a little bit based off of which direction they're going.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on that note, the dairy expansion, it would be just because of the residents, not whether this is an acreage or not.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based off of the residences that are existing in the area, not because of an acreage.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it would look at the houses there and measure, so irrespective of the subdivision, it wouldn't make a difference.
Ken?
So, that the subdivision application, 2019-0055 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution.
Any discussion? Call for the question, those in favor, those opposed, carried.
you wanted us that way, it might be, I don't know, so I'm going to the opposite.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go down to J1, that's page 5658, Lethbridge, Colville Lethbridge Community Growing Project. Gonna have to wait now. Yeah. I don't think we got a presenter.
Was that corporate services, Colville Lethbridge, community growing?
Yeah, you want to do that one?
Yep, sure.
This locks.
No, I unlocked it.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta maybe do something with that really thing. Unlock Jillian's council meeting. But close it though, lock the people that are fault.
No.
Sorry, Morris.
Yeah, you do.
There you
$50.
So what's the point of it?
try. Okay.
What were you guys doing?
Sorry.
Sorry, they're just testing out the door.
We thought, Mr. Chairman, with the door and the automatic system we have now, the light shows red, so anyone approaching the door might think they cannot get in without a fob, but in fact, they can during council meetings at least. Otherwise, the red light really means red, stop, you cannot come in. You're welcome.
Okay,
We're open and transparent.
Yeah.
So, Steve.
Swipe card.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This report is on page 56. The Coaldale Lethbridge Community Growing Project is requesting their annual request of waiver of taxes on this year on the Southwest 21920 W4 for their 2019 project. In previous years, the county has granted a $500 donation instead of the tax waiver, as I guess we feel that this benefits the program more directly than the waiver of the taxes does. And again, this is our recommendation this year. Policy 161 is the donations policy that guides our decision on this and our recommendation for the $500 donation. And we are recommending that we support this organization once again this year with another $500 donation. Any questions?
No. Any discussion? Need a motion then? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that County Council donates $500 through Lethbridge County Donations Policy 161 to the Coaldale Lethbridge Community Growing Project for 2019 with funding from the donation reserve.
Any discussion? Call for the question, those in favor, opposed, carried. Thanks, Tracy. Let's do number 2, page 59 to 60, and that is Diamond City Community Structural Assessment.
Great, Rick, Mike is off today, our asset coordinator, asset management coordinator, so Rick's gonna present this report on his behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Council. I've been seconded to corporate services for the next 10 minutes or so. So the Diamond City Hall has been discussed over the last year or so that they had some structural concerns with that building, and they did some remedial work that did buy some life for that building. With our asset management program, we did a building assessment of all of our facilities that included air handling systems, basic structural analysis of the building, just visuals type stuff. So I would put that in the same realm as like level 1 inspections for our bridges. It kind of tells you, you know, that based on the age of the building and some visual parameters that there's still life remaining, or if something needs to be done in the next 2 years or 5 years, or you've got 10 years that you don't have to worry about anything. In this case, the general assessment that was done at the time did indicate that the building has a fair amount of value left, but it is nearing its time where there is some intervention needed with the structure. Looking at the hump in the floor and some of the sloping things that are going on, there is a full structural analysis that needs to be done, which is outside the scope of that general assessment. So it'd be similar to advancing to level 2 assessment on a bridge structure, which you all are probably familiar with because we've talked about it many times. So the level 2, or in this case, the full structural assessment would be a little more intrusive, a lot more in-depth visual inspection, getting in and under, looking at the structure, how much rot there is, what the cause of the, what we think is potentially some settlement of the building in certain areas and different types of things like that, and to come up with design recommendations to bring that building up to a structural standard that would be meet the needs of an assembly occupancy, which is where you can have things like liquor licenses, serve food, and have people come there and assemble in groups. So with that in mind, we did go out and get 2 quotes from some local engineering firms, and the prices range, so did the scope of work, from about $4,500 to $9,500. My interpretation is that with the full scope, we're going to be in that $7,000 to $8,000 range is typical for something, a building of that size, magnitude of the scope of services that they've suggested. So the recommendation from the asset coordinator, asset and GIS coordinator, was that we had an upset limit of $9,500 to complete the structural assessment of the Diamond City Community Hall, and that money is funded from the Municipal Reserve Fund.
Any questions? So what does the current assessment look like? I mean, is it salvageable, or do you have to go to this, really figure that out, or?
No, the general assessment said the building does have value. It's just at a stage in its life where it needs some intervention to a retrofit to bring the structure back to an appropriate standard. Some of that sloping in the floor could represent hazards or liabilities that could be cast upon us because we are the owner of the building, and there is things that that need to be looked at now. So there is life of the building. The shell of the building was all somewhat adequate. So another 20 or 30 years, I would say, on the rest of the building, other than the foundation.
Claude?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, when the assessment's gonna be made on the building, you're gonna find out what it's worth right now and what the cost is, and then, because you're talking already about, like, it's probably worth it and everything like that, but you don't have an assessment on the building itself yet, right?
We have a general assessment that tells us that there is value in the building. It doesn't say how much the building is worth. It just says that, you know, it's there is some value to the structure. If you want to keep using that for another 20 or 30 years, then you're going to have to do something with the foundation to bring it up to a standard that is suitable for the type of occupancy of that building.
And I know we've talked about this before, but what are the reasons for us owning it versus like the other smaller communities having the community association and having the buildings themselves and having to do all the repairs and everything on that. You know the reason for that?
We actually didn't even know that we owned it until this whole thing came up last year. So we're not, I don't know how that came about. Maybe it was something to do with the grant funding that was used at the time and it was never transferred to the association. I don't know.
And because of this, are we not gonna get the other smaller communities coming to us and saying, hey, you're doing this for this village, and how about us?
Well, there's always a risk of that, but we have grant funding and programs in place to assist with these type of things. And if it's reasonable for council to approve it, there was a major investment done there at some point in time. And yeah, it's beneficial to more than just Diamond City. I mean, it's used by people across a lot of the north part of the county. It's not just a Diamond City facility.
Larry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just further to the points that Councillor Vanderveen raises. Historically, the county has leased the hall to the Diamond City Citizens Association, I think they call themselves, for $1. Outright, Lethbridge County owns it, and it is a bit of a unique situation insofar as the other community associations and community halls in our hamlets, the county does not own them. The lease that we have with the association has expired. We have a new one kind of poised, ready to go for the group. However, we held off signing and re-entering into a lease based on the fact that, you know, there are some structural questions, let's say, with the integrity and you know, safety of the building. And as Rick points out, you know, until we have this assessment done and are absolutely confident that, you know, maybe the building still needs some upgrades and some repairs, but that it's safe and going to be functional, we've held off signing that lease. So once, you know, we get to that point, and hopefully we will, we could then be in a position to sign the lease as well, based on some of the points Councillor Vanderveen raises, you know, whether the county wants to at some point look at divesting itself of that particular asset. You know, I guess that would ultimately be a decision of council, but, you know, could be something that could be considered if that were the direction and desire. Thank you.
Okay. So one thing unique about it is that because it is county-owned property, it is eligible for that municipal reserve fund.
Land trust.
Well, it is a land trust reserve fund. I'm just going by the way the report was written.
Go ahead.
So the steps forward, if council gives approval to proceed today, would be that we would hire one of the two engineering firms that gave us the quotations. A report would be written with some design analysis, and then we would bring forward the full project for what would be required to upgrade that building. Should those findings come back the way that we expect, that there is remedial work needing to be done.
Any other discussion? The two quotes that you got, I mean, $4,500 to $9,500 is $5,000 different. Those were from two different companies. So, and you just mentioned that you know, going from $4,500 to $9,500 was because also the amount of work that's going to be done on what they're going to be assessing the building on versus that. So did they each have different ones in, or did they come up with one that was pretty similar because of the work that had to be done?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through to Councilor Vanderveen. I talked with Mike about the quotes a little bit. The one company actually quoted the range of 45 to 95, depending on the scope of the project. But he, in discussion with them, they kind of narrowed it down and discussed, you know, the work that was to be done. And they were both kind of confident on the $6,500 range. In fact, he had that in the report, and I changed it up to the upset limit of 95 just in case, because I would hate that to come back for an extra $2,000. But they narrowed it down and got the project scope, I guess, a little more identified and defined, and are comfortable in that $6,500 range.
So is that the same person who did the preliminary work?
They don't do that type of work. That company is, they're more generalists.
And Calgary.
Yeah. These are local engineers that we got the quotes from.
Any other questions? Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, we put a lot of emphasis on that before, you know, how important it is to keep those community halls going if anything possible down there, you know. But the thing is, the way it's written up, they lease it from the county, as it is for $1. And I think that's actually a great arrangement, because it's the community itself that kind of do the bookings, and if we had to do that out of this county office, it might not happen again. So it's a good arrangement, I believe.
Any other discussion? Ken?
I would make the recommendation that administration agreed with having the structural assessment of the Niagara City Community Hall completed for the amount quoted and not to exceed $9,500 to be funded from the municipal reserve fund.
No, it's okay. Any other further discussion? Oh, Larry?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wonder if the motion would be more accurate if, rather than stating municipal reserve fund, we called it the land trust reserve fund, if that's the intention. I'm not sure if that was the intention, but.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, and I apologize, just the way this report was drafted and written. It does say municipal reserve, but I believe the intention would be land trust reserve. It fits that category perfectly in our minds.
Great. So, but
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They are one and the same.
Well, we're calling them one and the same. Okay.
Well, land trust reserve is made up of municipal reserves, so funds set aside. So the other one and the same. It's not a different one that we were specified.
I see.
So, yeah.
No, good, thank you.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the policy, we can use funds for that reason. It's still sort of a capital, leading to a capital improvement, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ken?
yeah, I was just wondering if we just cut it off at 9,500, and then you're not bound by.
Says that.
Yeah, it's got two different figures. Oh, okay. So, but it was changed to 95. Yeah. Okay.
So if we just cut it off at 9,500.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And I guess we've got about 4 minutes to 12, so we must go for lunch. Claus? All in favor?
Then need to chat a little bit about the more current stuff that's been going on that I'm sure you're aware of, but we need to chat regardless in case you have questions, or we may have questions, depends on how it goes. But in our briefing package that we're taking around to all of our members in this round, we've got a highlight on the election 2019, which is pretty well old news now. We all know the list of ministers, and we know the balance of power and the roles that take place there, and we're now getting responses back from the various MLAs wanting to know more about what's important to rural municipalities, especially those who are not in cabinet. They want to feel get better engaged, and so we're setting up meetings, or trying to set up meetings with them, and we were supposed to have one next Thursday, but it just got canceled today, and it'll be a month from now. But just trying to build a new relationship with government. One of the items that we'll be talking about with government, once things settle down a little bit for them and they're done in the House, is the whole long-term funding, the replacement of MSI, and how that's going to be dealt with in the future. We've shared a lot of that with you guys already through the convention, but if you got questions, we can touch on that more. Unpaid taxes, it's a huge item for most of our members. I know oil and gas is not as large item in Lethbridge County as it is for some of our other members, but unpaid taxes is a municipal-wide issue. So we've got that issue that's always on the horizon, and it'll touch on a few of the other things that we just will be chatting on in a minute, as will the assessing your modifiers for linear property. One of the items that probably will have some, because of your cattle and grain operations with irrigation, is the Ag Plastics recycling. It's an item that you should be receiving communications this week from the Ag Plastics Recycling Group or from Clean Farms, depends on who sends it out. But we got the funding approved, $1 million approved for a 3-year pilot project to look at collection of grain bags and twine, and to try and build some understanding of logistic challenges that come along with that, and trying to create a data bank of information for the province with what we're hoping for an ultimate reserve is that we will have a provincial-wide program that will be administered, or at least have the legislation to support it by the province. And so you will be hearing something on that in the near future. Go ahead.
On those, was there just gonna be a limited amount of collection sites for the?
Yeah, it's a good question, Steve. We've got, I believe, 25 sites the first year, and then the subsequent 2 years, another 15 and 15 sites. So we've got many of our members have asked to participate, and we're gonna have to make some rationalization decisions as to where we're going to start. And we're hoping too that when we have municipalities that have already partnered, either with commissions or partnered, ND to MD, and done some joint programs that they can apply together, so that you get more engagement and more opportunity that way. Ultimately, we want to know what's it going to cost to accumulate this stuff, so that we can develop down the road, have interested people in doing an end-use processes. We've got 1 or 2, and not sure that's enough, but how do you know it's enough if you don't know what's on the landscape, and then what's it going to cost to collect it, to manage it through the process. So we're focusing on grain bags and twine because they're the 2 easy ones, and it's not that we're lazy, but we're hoping in the process to try and identify what is available from silage plastic and the stretch wrap that goes on bales. We do not have a market for net wrap at this time, which is actually, net wrap in our whole process is a contaminant, but solutions may come, and I think that's the issue, is people aren't going to develop solutions until they have a better understanding as to what the inventory is going to be, or potentially can be on a year-to-year basis. What can we do then to partner with the other provinces to create some smart industry and use it?
How have you been managing it up to this point? Or is it basically just been left up in the hands of the farmers?
A lot of farms are full up right now because we have nowhere to take it, like we're full at Iron Springs.
So you're dealing with the same at the MD as basically it's.
Yeah, I think we used to collect it up until about a year or 2 ago, like the silage bags and stuff, but then we just didn't have a market for them, so I split that.
And that's common right across more and more. I know we had, I don't know how many tons collected that we finally, unfortunately, the commission put it in a landfill rather than store it at the landfill site. They actually put it in the landfill, which is not what we want to have. We don't want to go through all that effort and cost of collecting and just bury it in a hole anyways. That's counter to what we want to try and accomplish. So any more on the Ag Plastics? Just stay tuned. We're hoping to have that communication with this week. Rural crime and policing, this is an item that has been ongoing and has escalated in the last few years, and I have no doubt you guys have got the same challenges that many of our members have when it comes to, repeat offenders and the catch and release program, and the challenges that it creates on the landscape, with the fact that the RCMP can just not cover the rural landscape to the same intensity as what they do on the within a populated area and the likes of that. So we've seen some of the measures that the province put forward a year and a half ago show some short-term results, but the short-term results are not a good indicator. You got to watch this over a 2 or 3 year period. And the part that identified that so well is when we talked about this the other day. In a few of our municipalities through the month of February, rural crime almost disappeared. That's because it was too flippin' cold. Even the criminals have got some challenges with the cold weather.
We should have that out here.
No. It's just, it's more akin to the fact that we gotta watch the numbers and not just look at it 6 months at a time. We gotta look at them. Yeah, you can look at the 6 month, but it's gotta be looked at over a 3 year curve.
That's a good point, because we get a quarterly report from the RCMP and they say that crime is going down, but I think a lot more people are just, they're not bothering to report it anymore. Because, nobody comes out to look, and they haven't had a vehicle stolen or a gun or something, they don't come.
Yeah. And we've heard that a lot, where the RCMP are not showing up on site, and I know when we've talked to the RCMP, they don't like to hear that, because it's not their intent, but they did raise the issue in the one meeting that they've had so many more personal crime issues to deal with, that property crime always takes second nature to a personal crime. And then, staffing or recruitment has effect on how much capacity they have too, and I'm not gonna defend or criticize the RCMP on that. That's their in-house challenge that I'm not gonna give them that well. Federal budget, we've seen some, it's election year, so you're gonna see always, some sweetness in a budget, and the fact that the gas tax that we receive from the feds is gonna be doubled this year. And those of you that were at FCM might have heard the conversations on it, but I know at the FCM board table, all we're apparently waiting for is the implementation of the Budget Act, the 2019 Budget Act. And that will automatically release those funds to the provinces to then send out to the municipalities. In Alberta, we've had typically a fairly clean process where it comes to the province, and the province has actually handled the administration and just turned that money back to the municipalities based on the data that they have for those municipalities. So we're hoping that that'll move forward in the process. There's been an increase in broadband funding to try and advance broadband on a Canada-wide basis. 2 key targets is they want to have a minimum of 50 down and 10 megabytes up by at 95% of the population by 2026, with 100% by 2030, which is, I think it's great that the province or the feds are targeting a full distribution by 2030. The challenge is that's 12 years from now, and 50 down and 10 up is going to be like walking or running. It's 2 completely different things, and I don't know if it's going to be keeping up. But that's our job, is to keep advocating on. If once they make the hardware connection, or so that, the mechanism of getting it to you, then the intensity needs to be enhanced. I live in a community, I live 4 miles from one of the most connected communities in all of Canada, and yet at 4 miles away, we've got a young college girl that's living in our basement at our house, and she phoned 2 nights in a row because there was hockey games and basketball games on, and she couldn't log on to the broadband because everybody was logged on to rural broadband, and it wouldn't download that kind of facility. So that shows how limited our capacity is, and we've got a 50 and 10 ratio where I live, so it needs to be, keep enhancing and get that hose bigger, so that, or that pipe bigger as we move forward. And there's a few other items in the budget that I have no doubt Ann has gone through with you guys to look at it, but back to a few of the other items. You know, we're trying in our member visits to get a good sense of where things are going from the ICF, IDP discussions, and you know, get a bit of a sense of how it's going for you, because April 2020 is not very far away. And I know in my community, we're starting to feel a little bit of the pressure to get things finished by then. And so just curious, you know, how's it going? And if you've got obstacles that you want to share, what are they? And I know you guys have an Indigenous community on your border. And so how is that working? Or have you had even the ability to connect with them on that? So looking for information from you guys, just to be, you know, we're trying to gather this information.
We did some, our surrounding rurals, we did, thanks to Derek, we had a template. So we did them in-house, the IDPs and the ICF in the rurals. And so should be done that by September. With regards to the ICFs, when I started, we did agreements with the urbans, so the county, instead of doing it individually, which when I speak to other counties and MDs, they were trying to do specific ICFs with each little urban. I don't really know why I did it like that. I just think it was the economy of scale, but it has been very effective, because if we have them all sitting in the room, there's been more agreement and more receptivity, specifically when we're talking about emergency services and recreation. And we seem to be making some headway with it. I think we have another meeting at the end of June. Obviously, we did the city of Lethbridge separately, and that's going really well too. We've come to some agreements. It's always the players who are in the room. The fact that the city has a new city manager, he's a little bit more open and, you know, wanting to do partnerships rather than, you know, we're just gonna go and annex whatever, or whatever they think. So, I think we've had success, and, you know, the conversations kept coming up because of the looming provincial election that, why are we doing this? Because they're gonna get rid of them. But my answer always was, well, this is a really good opportunity for us to have conversations. So we have really a lot of challenges with the city of Lethbridge, boundary roads, water, wastewater, that kind of thing. So it's given us a good opportunity to start those discussions, and the same with the urbans inside too. So I found them to be productive. Will we get them done on time? Yes. I think so. I think we'll make it, but I found the discussions very helpful, and the frameworks, I think, are not great in the respect that they highly mention mediation a lot. I found that the province put that in there very heavy, and it's almost like, you know what, you know you're gonna have trouble, so there is gonna be that clause. And I've mentioned that to the province a few times throughout the process. But the other piece is, it is a good opportunity to kind of sort out some of these things and to get a framework.
So, Ann, you made the comment that they're gonna throw them out anyways, and I've heard that from a few, but I've never seen a platform that says that.
No. And I wasn't here, I was still in Ontario, but what I did hear is that originally it was a conservative initiative. So, that's my understanding, so.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that people have this perception that now that the Conservatives are back, and they're gonna get rid of them. So it's just a rumor out there.
No, it was clearly, you know, we have legislation before we change power.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the government whatsoever, so it wasn't on their platform.
It's a precursor to regionalization, you know, and we see that. So we look at other counties like the County of Newell and what they're trying to do with the annexation or not, like amalgamations, not annexation, sorry. And then you worry, because then you see the provinces watching all that as well too. So if they see something like that, you know, they're gonna say, oh, okay. So if they did it, well then Lethbridge can, you know, amalgamate all their smaller urban, and that's always a very big concern, because is it ideal? Well, yes, you get more population, but then what happens?
Do you get aging infrastructure and a small community that's unsustainable?
Yeah, and, I think, we were just, I know, I'm not gonna quote anything they said, but the general gist of the conversation is there's a lot of variables that need to be worked through in the process, even a matter of, having tax rates. Your tax rates for residential, as an example, are gonna be the same or non-residential, for that matter. There's definitely different development standards typically in the rural environment compared to the urban and servicing standards. And so those are all different items that are gonna have to get weeded through in this process. And under the amalgamation thing, how do you deal with the communities that are saying, no, we're happy being on our own? And that'll be, they're the first to admit they've got work to do on it. And it's the solution that they see is best for their community, and part of that works because they've got the one county, and all their services are linked together, all their commissions, all that stuff is done only between those players. Whereas in my area, we've got various commissions with various members that are in one and not in another, and those things all just add to the complication.
Well, I think too, it's not, and forced amalgamation is always a very frightening thing. So, I mean, you look at, there was an island in outside Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, there's 4 municipalities on there. They share complete services, but they have 4 offices, 4 CAOs, 4 councils. So in that instance, I think there could be amalgamation, but it should be smart amalgamation, so.
And it's interesting because the new provincial government in Ontario, that's one of the municipal lenses they're putting through right now, is looking at the regional governments and their county structures to see.
Yeah,
is it
we're lower
really-
tiered, yes, it's quite a bit of a dog's.
Yeah, and that's the consistency and the lack of direction is what he wants to look at there. So I'll get that up to them.
I think one other thing that I've sort of observed coming out of this is the recreation part. And some smaller municipalities seem to think that rural municipalities have bottomless pockets and they want, larger and better facilities than they ever had. We should be paying the lion's share of it. I don't think there was any, with absolutely no consultation in what was gonna happen.
Yeah, and I know when we were on the early stages before they released the first draft of the NGA review that went through a few years ago, we actually had that as if there's going to be joint funding arrangements in the ICF discussions, then joint planning should also be part of it. You can't just go ahead and build because you are a municipality and then expect somebody else to come along and pay. If you want them to pay, then they gotta be part of the decision in the first place, but that never really showed up. But I still think you have that opportunity in your ICFs to guide it that way, that before somebody throws a new facility at you that they want you to pay for, they've got to have you on the front end of the planning piece and give you that opportunity to say, no, we don't need 4 new arenas. One really good arena in one community that is strategically placed may be a much better idea. Those kind of approaches, I think you still have that opportunity to deal with it. It's not easy because we haven't fully figured it out in my own municipality even, so, but it's all part of that. So, anything else on the ICF discussion or IDPs that you guys want to share? It sounds like it's moving, and it's comforting to hear that you think you'll make the arbitration deadline anyways. And I think the province in the past has said, well, if you're working your way and you're close, and you both are working it towards an end goal, there may be extensions to that. But it's interesting, they gave the automatic extension to the rural to rural approach to the ICFs, and those appear to be the easy ones to come up with, other than maybe 2 or 3 different situations. Other stuff that came through the MJA a few years ago is the code of conduct and different pieces as far as the IDPs go, and how have you, do you have any experiences on those, the code of conduct documents or the public participation documents that we had to create Have you got any experience on those processes?
I'm gonna turn that one over to Larry. Sorry, Larry, if
Yeah.
you're just not right now.
Yeah, no, that's fine, sure, we did indeed adopt, council adopted code of conduct bylaw for themselves. And then, I think it's a bylaw, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bylaw. And as well, we have a public participation policy, so, we met the requirements of the, direction from the province. And, the code of conduct, we have a very well-behaved council, so, it really doesn't become much of an issue.
That would be a surprise.
You already got your donut.
And with respect to our public participation policy, we do try to follow that, and we have made, I would say, in my 5.5 years here at Lethbridge County, when I came on board, I think there was some momentum already, but I think the county takes that very seriously and has made great strides, and we have a very good communications person and department, and do lots of initiatives to ensure that, we communicate as thoroughly and broadly as we can, as widely to anyone who's willing to lend an eye or an ear to hear, what the county's doing and to share messages and information back and forth, so.
So with your public participation policy, have you got any innovative ways that you've found to do it? Because that's one of the challenges. We got the policy in place and we're gonna connect with our people this way. And we're starting to find out that that's maybe the way council thinks it needs to be done, but the public is a different aspect on that. So just curious if you've got any innovative ways.
Just 3 or 4 weeks ago here, we had the first Coffee with Council. It was a new, strategy, I guess, and I think it was deemed to be reasonably successful. There were no staff in the room other than a kind of a note taker, a silent note taker, and it was just council and members of the public who chose to show up. They posed some questions that maybe council didn't have the technical background or information needed to answer them. Posed them back to staff, we followed up and put them back to.
Very, very casual setting, and
Yeah.
one thing too innovative, we have like pretty good staff, and they came up with a really innovative way to do a budget survey this year too, and they looked really broadly, and they actually looked at, I think it was Thousand Oaks, California, where they found some ways that they were reaching out through social media. So we had a lot of success with the budget survey, and we had a lot of response. It was our first year that we had done it, and so that was very successful too. We're also trying to get some message out to the people who pay the business tax, because one of the things that they did bring up was, where is that money going? So we just did a very broad strokes overview on, this is what the business tax came in at, here's what it was spent on. So it was very well received, I would say.
There's lots of other things we do in the communication side of things too. We do have a monthly digital newsletter that our communications department puts out. That's fairly new, I think just the past few months, and we're inviting people to subscribe to that, so they'll get it automatically in their inbox kind of thing. And I think that's been
We have an app.
successful. We have an app, that's right, that we developed about a year ago, for people can apply for permits, they can report an issue, just share information, ask a question, whatever. It's really
Road closures
great.
come up automatically through the app and those kinds of things.
Quarterly paper newsletter.
We're streaming.
We stream, I was gonna say we're live now.
Live streaming, yeah, we're live streaming.
Very good.
Andy brought up the business tax. How is that going? And just so, because people ask, just kind of an update on that, so we can.
Yeah, we were successful, the appeal went through and we were successful. It's now, a brief has been prepared before the Supreme Court, they've pushed it to that far. And we should know in the next month or so whether the Supreme Court will hear it or not.
Be interesting to see the arguments as to how they see it of national significance.
Yeah.
We won't get into that right now. But no, we've just gone through it, and that's what I didn't realize that was your #1 argument to get in front of that, was to be able to share how the issue is of national significance, not just the local significance.
So if something is under the Alberta MGA, and that's, how, you're exactly right, how does that have national significance? We'll see.
So one of the most current situations that's come forward now that we have our new government in place and new minister is, and those of you that were on the conference call would have heard this already, but we had a meeting to talk about the plight of the shallow gas industry. And again, I know, like I said earlier, one of the challenges that you guys face is you don't have a lot of oil and gas compared to some of our members, but it is still present. And the price, the global price of natural gas has really hit that industry hard. And when Trident went down, they pointed fingers at municipalities and landowners and the Alberta Energy Regulator as those are the three main issues, three main reasons that they went down. And so we were tasked to meet with the Explorers and Producers Association of Canada, which is the advocacy group for the shallow gas business. And we were asked to sit down and come up with a solution that we can present to the minister. Well, we have met with those people, and we do not have a completely cohesive position. They have their concerns, and some of their concerns we cannot advocate for, so we will both submit our positions to the minister on that. But now in the, we're just, we're reviewing the letter as we're on the road, and once that goes with the minister, we're asking for a meeting with the minister to share the municipal perspective, and we're hoping that can happen next week. Again, depends on how busy they are, but I think that's moving forward. And so that's a wait and see type thing, and we're going to communicate. I mentioned the conference call, and I know, Lauren, you were on the conference call, and I'm not sure if you had others on it, but it was a tool that we used. It's the first time that we've really done it this way. Is we're a long time between now and the next convention, and stuff is coming at us really, really fast. And they're expecting positions from us really, really fast. And so rather than take the gamble, because this is substantial, this one, and we are all elected to lead and act on your behalf, but we felt we needed to reach out and talk to our members, and so that was what the conference call was. We had over 50 people participate in the conference call and talked about the situation, informed, and then got feedback, and we had some pretty consistent feedback as to where we were going and where the direction that we were headed, and we had strong support from those on the call regarding the direction we were taking on that. And the reality is there's not a lot of options we can do, and as tax bills have just gone out, assessment and tax bills have just gone out to the public, you don't really want to say, well, just give those back, we're going to change them. It doesn't work that way. We not only have committed to the public that way, but our members have committed to expenses for this, the busiest time of year, that we can't really now all of a sudden just start changing the direction the council is going. So we're using that as part of our argument to say there are some tools, but the tools may be more provincial than they are municipal. So that's as close as I can get to saying what we're saying without saying it in a public meeting. So we will see how that goes. So that's the direction right now on that, and it's a stay tuned type thing for all of us, and so we'll see. And now the newest item that's come forward is the Bill 7, which has just been released, which is going to allow municipalities to identify certain industries or certain industry operators to give them tax deferral or tax tools, tax incentives to try and draw businesses into your community, and you can do it up to a 15-year time duration. This is a model that's been used in other parts of Canada and the U.S. And so it's presently, as it's been laid on the table, it's an enabling process. So if you want to use it, you use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't use it. But it's an interesting tool. There's ups and downs to the use of it, because it can, and like I said to the guys in Newell, it's not very often I'll quote the Mayor of Calgary, but his comment was dead on. We have to watch this, that it doesn't become a race to the bottom when it comes to taxes, because then certain sectors pay and certain sectors don't, or new operators that are going to have a business that sells this widget, but they're big enough you want to bring them in. What about those who've been selling the same widget for the last 20 years that have supported your municipality? So those are all the things that need to be taken into consideration, and that's a local decision-making piece. But it's not a silver bullet for anything. So, but you know, we haven't had the opportunity to share our thoughts with the government on this because we haven't been invited to share our thoughts on this. And I will say, you know, Premier Kenny has stated that they're going to have 90 days of fast action government, and they believe their consultation was done in the election process, and so they're going to make decisions. We're going to keep saying we've got to be included in the future. We've got to be included in the future on anything that any changes to the MGA. Both associations need to be at the table on those things. So we don't know what the final look of that will be. It's at first reading stage right now, but it's looking like they want to move it forward fairly quickly. So if it takes any changes, we'll try and address those. So that's our update to you. Now, we're here to hear from you, to have you share or to ask questions. Whatever you guys want to do.
I'm glad you brought that one up. It's kind of like topic from before. I think my thoughts are not much different about, you know, when you give oil and gas companies compensation, how do you deal with the other businesses that are already in your community and well established? They're having a tough time too, some of them. So how do you kind of decide who gets one and who doesn't? I think this tax thing is almost exactly the same as that kind of philosophy. I can see it. I have to agree with the mayor of Edmonton and Calgary. They do. I mean, it can be a competitive thing that a richer municipality can use. It has larger cash reserves to offset and attract more business, but on the other hand, it's not really a fair way of doing it either. So it's a very, how would I put this? It's almost like you're getting into a situation you shouldn't be in, because eventually I don't know who's going to pay the price.
Yeah, well, and it is interesting on a few aspects in the fact that we're doing ICFs, where we have to collaborate and work together. And yet, we're putting in a mechanism that's going to have us competing with each other. And that's an interesting approach, you know, and under the Regional Economic Development Alliances that we have throughout Alberta, that's all partnership type approach to stuff. And this can, I believe, create some obstacles in that partnership for economic development too. So those are the things that I'm hoping that the municipalities weigh out. We will share our comments when we have a chance to meet with the minister on it, but it's something that they appear to be, you know, intent on moving forward.
I think it's interesting that the idea of 15 years, you get into industrial assessment, machinery, equipment, these things basically amortize out in 10 years. So you give someone 10 years, and then when you go to tax, and there's nothing left to tax. It's kind of like, you have to be really cautious about this. So there's a lot of things that, I mean, it certainly wasn't something, you know, we went to the briefing and they were asked by the media what, you know, what brought this about, what the municipality's been asking for, and they said, no, it's just a really good idea we have, sort of thing. So, you know, there's a number of things I think we're gonna have to flesh out with them on this program. We're, you know, I think a tool is a tool, and that's great as long as it's voluntary, and you can decide, but we start getting into this game, and we've got a shrinking tax base as it is. How many gambles can you get? I think a great example I heard this morning is, you know, they say farm receipts are down 68% year over last, right? And the canola thing is a little scary this year. So are we gonna have every farmer thinking we should have a 10-year deferral on taxes? You know, like, you pick one industry or another, every industry is gonna have its ebb and flows that there are disastrous situations. So you know, it's gonna be something to think about, for sure.
The only thing that I think that good can come about is that the new innovation that people become more innovative because of that. Because I mean, these are the people that are gonna profit from this whole thing. I mean, it's instead of pulling other industry away from other MDs and counties, you know, I think this is gonna work really well for new innovators.
Yeah,
That's probably about the only thing.
And that's a good point, Klaus, because, I guess my mindset was, the story I heard when I was chair of our RETA was the situation, one major electronic company moved into Burnaby because they got a tremendously good tax incentive to pull them there. And so that electronics company went in, they're a fairly large chain, and there was about 3 to 4 mom and pop electronics companies fell by the wayside because they couldn't compete anymore, mainly because of the size, but also the tax advantage. Tax advantage expired in 10 years. The company came back and said to the city of Burnaby, we now want another 10-year tax exemption. And the city of Burnaby said, well, sorry, you've had yours. And they said, well, then we're moving. And then they said, well, yeah, but you're set here, you won't move. 3 weeks later, they announced that they were gonna build a new store in Richmond. So that's that part, but the innovators, it's maybe, if it's a new industry completely to your area or to the region you're in, then there is maybe that opportunity. That's a good point, to draw them in. You could build another marijuana plant and try and get them a tax exemption on that. They don't pay taxes in the
There's so many of them. Well, you're an old, you should know.
Oh, yeah, our altitude just went up significantly.
And I think the one other thing that's on everybody's mind, and you mentioned it already, is broadband.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like any industry that wants to come in, that's almost their number one question is, what's your broadband situation? And
Where are we at with Dairy's Barn? Have you done any work with broadband locally, or I know a few of the municipalities, parts, has done an awful lot of work.
well, we're just kind of on the starting edge of this, so we're not really.
We've had some initial meetings and conversation on the regional possibilities, but nothing concrete yet.
And the challenge I see is, you guys are on the edge of a city, I'm on the edge of a well-connected town. My concern is how are they gonna deal with it in the more remote communities? That, to me, it's just as important for the agriculture operators or the business operators of Anoia to have access to it too, and they're gonna be much more expensive to service, and that's why there are models that have been used in the past that need to be considered in this. They advanced, the normal phone lines significantly over the years by having a nominal fee on all the residential owners of phones over the years. Many people I didn't even know was there, but that went to advancing phone systems in the remote and northern areas of the country. If it's $1 per month on a cell phone bill, who's gonna really feel that? That's $300 million a year that they can generate by doing it. And then it helps them fund moving it out in the more remote areas, the heart of the service areas. Those models can be there. I know I sit at the FCM board table and I can never really get this through FCM, but I still believe we need to have a legislated system that deals with the fact that the ISPs take the low-hanging fruit and leave the rest for the municipalities to come to a solution. I think that's wrong. I think the ISPs, if they're gonna have a 100 meg access within the higher populated areas, they need to provide 50 meg access to everybody else in the province. I think that needs to be done legislatively rather than just deal with this from a dollar to dollar to dollar point of view. It needs to have a principle tied to it. But I don't get very far on that. Well, I haven't got very far on that. So others?
Yeah, go ahead.
And happy you guys were there at the RMA meeting that we had, and then we had a meeting with you guys with the Southern Alberta Energy for Waste. And we all know that we talked about the waste, the plastic, the silage plastic, everything like that. So there is, and I probably don't have to tell you this, but there is a solution for it, and we know that this is forthcoming, and like I say, it's moving forward. It looks like we're moving forward pretty good. We're busy on site selection and stuff like that. So I think that'd be great to get the support from our RMA. I think that would be very beneficial for politically forward.
And I'm not sure what support looks like from your perspective and ours, because we're not experts in the field. But the fact that there's 40+ municipalities wanting to partner together, it's a collaborative approach. How would we not support that collaborative approach to things? I don't know the science well enough, Claus, and I don't think the board knows the science well enough. I know, talking with the provincial government last year, one of the concerns they have is turning waste to energy may divert some of the products that may have a secondary value in the recycling programs in the future. So that's where the province was voicing their concern when we talked to them about it. However, the recycling programs are not delivering what they are intended to deliver either. And we've got an inventory of a lot of recycling programs with the way things have been dealt with on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, and the fact that we use them as a garbage dump, and they pushed back as they should have. And they've left us now in a spot where we don't know where to go with our recyclables. Well, turning them into energy to me is better than landfill.
See, and I think that came about with well, misunderstanding, not really communicating properly with the government that we just had, and I think that part of it was, you know, that we're not in competition with that whatsoever. I just want to.
Yeah, I think that needs to be stated time and time again, is you want to, and I know when I've talked with Paul and I've talked with Don Armstrong over the years, they don't want to compete with the recycle process, you want to complement it. And I think that's an important message. And, you know, I think it was, we all learned a lot in that meeting, and I thought it was very beneficial to have that get together, because it did clarify a lot of what's going on that way. And I'm not sure where your site selection is going to be, but time is of the essence of this kind of stuff, and partnerships are important. So that's good. I'm hoping at some point this has enough dynamic power that maybe some of the cities will start directing some of their waste your way rather than them continuing to landfill it too. So that'll make your model much more feasible too.
Well, I hear you speak this way, that's support enough or not.
Okay, fair enough. So the other big elephant in the room, and I know you guys can't do much about it, is the Chinese deal. I mean, the canola, the pork, now they're talking about maybe beef and wheat and barley. Like, agriculture's in a disastrous state as it is now, but if we lose the rest of our markets, we have nowhere to go.
No. And just a little update as to where we're at, because as a result of board discussion, we sent a letter to the MPs and directed it towards Prime Minister. We copied a whole long list of MPs, not to the Minister of Agriculture, saying that they needed to get going on this and find a way to get the discussions to the table. We all know that China is saying it's a quality and health issue, but there's a strong belief that this is a diplomatic issue.
That's exactly what it is.
What's that?
Exactly what it is.
Yeah. And so we've even asked for, in our second letter, we've asked for a few things. One is to move this forward and get it to the table and get it talked about. But we all know that until they deal with the lady from we know that this is going to be just keep escalating into a problem, and so we got to work with that and keep that in mind. But we need to even get the government to reappoint a diplomat. You know, someone, an ambassador of some sort that can build a relationship with the Chinese government and try and work a solution that way, because they're just adding more and more to the pile. So we have been communicating, we've been in touch with the Canola Council to make sure that whatever we say is online and consistent with them, so that we can help push that whole thing forward. But you're right, it is even, and I will say that the province has even got limited jurisdiction or limited push on this. This is a global diplomatic issue that is so far beyond what we can do, other than to communicate.
Just Lauren, thanks for the mercenaries for sending the letter. Certainly some of the direction was taken from that, which you shared, so appreciate myself and letters of assent there to move this along, but it is, continues to be an issue.
Yeah, no easy solution.
No.
I know, it is interesting because there was a big fear that there was gonna be so many acres of canola not planted. But, I know talking with people in central Alberta, anyways, numbers are only down 5 to 8%. People are so committed to canola as part of their rotation that, this one issue, and this isn't the first time that China has done this kind of stuff, and it won't be the last. And so I think there's some wisdom in the farming community that this is gonna be tough. This is going to affect our marketability, but at the same time, we have to manage our farm with a full operational network, not just by a single commodity stream. So I think that's important to hear.
Yeah, it is. Other than that, I don't know. Anybody else got anything to see?
Any feel to where MSI funding might be going with the new government? Meetings with them, I guess, in some year.
Yeah, that's a good point. In our merchant meeting that we had with the minister, we did share that, we've got about 3 other items that we need to talk on, and the key one is the whole MSI funding, the replacement, municipal funding framework, whatever we're gonna call it. And they did acknowledge that that is gonna be important, but I have a sense right now that there is so much activity happening in government that it's not gonna be at the table until the House closes. They just got so much going on, and their intent was to try and get their business done before Stampede. And, I don't know if that's still their intent or how things are going that way, but I wouldn't expect to be at the table on that one, Steve. We worked our way through it, and, to the point where we were gonna have a meeting the day after the writ was dropped to see how close we were again, but, I'll give the government a bit of time to get the hot burning issues dealt with. But that is in the back of our mind, no matter how we approach the other things, because we still want to be welcomed to that table and have some discussion. But I don't think you'll be hearing anything on that until through the summer or late summer, early fall, before they really know. I'm trying to be fair to the minister too, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, lots of new MLAs, new ministers.
Yeah, and a whole philosophical different direction, so we need to have that in mind too.
Yeah.
But it's something that, we've got a lot of work has been done, and we just have to bring that work back up.
Right.
Some of this work has already been done through the charters, where they've identified some stuff in the charters, and our position is still going to be that don't treat us any differently than what you've already agreed to with the charters. That's a good starting point.
One point, Steve, there is also an opportunity for you guys to bring it up to the local MLAs, the importance of this. Because they are new people, and quite honestly, a lot of them don't understand it. So if you can catch your ear for a few minutes, certainly a great conversation to express the importance of it.
We have meetings we have a meeting tomorrow with Grant Hunter, and that's one of the items on our.
Perfect, very good. Super. Anything else?
Can't think of anything right off the top of my mind, unless you could make it rain a little more than that.
Yeah, I think if we had that handle,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be seeing me sitting here.
No.
We wouldn't have to worry about MSI funding, would we?
Yeah, but no, it is dry, and, it's dry right through the province. You guys have actually had more rains in the last month than, the north parts. It's good because you guys also get a lot more wind to dry your land out, so that's that balance. You've all seen the whole fire situation, and the fires are not out.
No.
There's a lot of fires that are still, deemed out of control, and, they're just not threatening any populated areas right now. And that's a good thing, because, people's safety has got to be first. And it's dry, it's hot, and it's windy. It's not getting any better. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have our golf tournament tomorrow, so it's. Well, when Jared left this morning, it was raining pretty good.
It was raining and,
But he didn't bring it down with him, so I couldn't blame him.
Harold, really?
Thought you cared.
Thanks, thanks very much for coming.
Well, yeah, thank you guys, and I love these conversations, that we can sit and learn what's going on here. I'm happy to see, hear that things are relatively moving forward on your ICFs. And it's a lot of extra pressure on these people when you've got all the rest of the business going to be looked after too. Okay, great, thanks guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you next time, Al. Thanks, Dave.
Brian?
Brian, thank you. Thanks.
Darrell, thanks.
Thanks all.
Thank you very much for coming.
See you tomorrow. You're on that. I kind of had to, I was at home. Thanks. Thank you. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Take care.
Okay, we got a big drive.
The first one she comes to, then she always stays after, right?
See ya. Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. You're welcome.
Okay, so we need to, we just need to search for information, the visit from RMA. Who wants to do that? Ken? All in favor? Opposed, carried. And then do we have just the invitation?
I-6. Oh.
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting. I-6, the one we added.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Southern Alberta Summer Games pitch.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that one? Okay. Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, that was added as a late item. With respect to Southern Alberta Games, every year in the Community Services annual operating budget, we set aside about $4,300. I think it goes up 2% or something, maybe incrementally year on year. But we've done that again this year. And then typically sometime around this time, I'm a little surprised honestly that I haven't seen it yet, but we receive an invoice from the town of Coaldale and we make our contribution financially that way. So, I have nothing to suggest or, lead me to believe that that's not going to happen again this year. I expect that invoice coming through any day. That money as well comes each year from the recreation reserve, so it's not tax support for that.
Thanks, Larry. I think that there was just some communication mishaps maybe here that they know that, but other people didn't know. We're all okay. Thanks.
Very good, you're welcome, thank you.
So just received for information.
Yeah.
Who's making that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thanks.
Okay, we have the invitation to the 20th Independent Fuel Battery Annual Ceremony Review, and that is on June 15th. Page 61. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move the read or designate be authorized to attend the 20th Independent Fuel Battery Annual Ceremony Review on January 15th, or June 15th at Vimy Ridge Armory.
Any discussion? Call for question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Nico, you go.
I want to sort of take my name out of it because it's a read, because we didn't know when it was going to come. It was.
You're going, you already put your name down.
Oh.
Claus.
I'll move that Robert Wilson-Maker, you go 7th of June.
Any discussion? Call for question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Deputy Chamber of Commerce, President's Reception.
I'll move that the Reed or Designated will attend the President's reception, June 22nd, 26th.
Who would like to go, anybody? We'll fight over it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Town of Caldwell, sod turning, RCMP. I thought they already did this once.
I was a year.
That was fire department.
Maybe. Oh, there was on TV one night. Kim Craig.
The RCMP?
Yeah,
Oh.
Oh, they were
Maybe
good.
they forgot they didn't invite us now, they're like.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Pause.
I'll move that the people east of the river go to the east of the river.
East of the river, south of the river?
East and south of the river.
East and
Go
south
to
of
the
the
sod
river.
turning ceremony for the RCP building, June 10th.
Right, yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You know, I feel like, you know, that's a pretty important, division to have in our county, and I don't think, I don't want to divide it up between the north side and the south side. I would like to restate that anybody who wants to go, should go.
Anybody that is willing to go,
Okay, I'll call for the question. Those in favor, opposed, carried. Town of Caldwell, Moy Drain Phase 2 ribbon cutting, June 14th.
Same thing.
All in council, any discussion? Call the question, those in favor, opposed, carried. We just accept the presentations in camera for information. We need two motions. Okay, first, Mr. Chairman. Any discussion? Call the question, favor, opposed, carried. Second one. Ken? Any discussion? Call for question, in favor, opposed, carried. That's it. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Carried. See you guys.